Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Wednesday webinar with me. Topic for today's webinar is the impossible transition, leading without losing yourself. Now, what does it really mean? What is so special about leading that could cause losing myself? Let's see. We'll explore that exactly what we'll explore in today's webinar. So let's move forward. So today's career changes are less of a linear and more of orbital. Do you agree? Why orbital? Because the career changes or the career progression, even if we don't consider the career changes, just the progression, or even the career survival today, because of the pace of change so drastic, professionals or the leaders have to get into a new role, into a new territory without understanding it well. So it's not about learning more and taking up a new role. It's about getting into a territory which is unknown. And that's where the orbit comes. So orbit is like, orbits of the satellites. The satellites remain in their orbit. They don't move from one to other because there's a lot of certainty. There's a lot of path. If they move out of their orbit, they'll clash. And this is what exactly is happening with the careers. That's how the careers, professional journeys are looking today. You are in one path, and then even if you don't plan because of the external disruptions, you need to change to a different orbit, which is uncertain to you. You don't have clarity in it. And this shift is what could lead to what we were calling losing yourself. Why? Because these shifts are not about new role. It's about allowing ourselves to become in it. It needs more than just learning new skills, learning new competency. It's about reinventing ourselves. Let's take the case of Gen AI today. With Gen AI, professionals are literally reinventing themselves. What is their role versus what would be the role of technology? So that's like losing yourself. That's how some of us are feeling today. The success, which is typically related to moving into a new role, moving into something you have been waiting for long, it brings many more questions that don't have easy answers, right? Now, could you share what are some of the questions which come to your mind? You can put in the chat. Yeah, will I be able to do this new role? What if I fail? Will I get the support which I need to do this new role? Yes, all of these questions come when making change from one orbit to other orbit. So when you think about moving to the next orbit, let's take example of Gen AI or learning about Gen AI or using Gen AI in our career as a colleague. What comes to your mind first? What do you need to do first if you have to get to orbit where you adopt, you leverage Gen AI? Yeah, you need to learn about it. You need to learn new skills. You need to learn new competency. You need to learn about the tools. That's what comes to your mind. And do you think if you can answer these questions, you can actually get to the next orbit, which is leveraging Gen AI? Most of you think so. So let's see what research says. Now, research says something very different. And these are some of the research which have been taken from including Forbes or other renowned sources. Some of the headlines are the biggest risk in a transition, a career transition, which is like moving from one orbit to other, is not making an identity and mind shift. It's not about tools, it's not about skills, it's not about competency. It's about identity and mindset shift. Second one says when professionals ascend into leadership positions, they undergo profound psychological transformation of their identity. So it's again about identity. It's not about what I know, who I know, what are my skills. Those things matter, but what matter more is transformation of identity. Let's look at the next one. Most leadership training fails because it skips the root issue, identity. Discover the shift that builds lasting transformation, not just leadership theater. So lasting transformations are made by identity transition, not just superficial skills and competencies. Again, they are important, they play a role, but only that much. The bigger role is accepting that role, getting into that role, which changes my identity. Next one. Transition failure happened because new leaders either must understand the essential demands of situation or lack the skill and flexibility to adapt to them. Again, either not understanding the demand, how it's going to impact your identity, or lack the skill and flexibility to adapt to them. It's not about the skills about the new roles, it's about skills and flexibility to adapt to them. So, looking at these research, it's very clear that while the skills might matter, your various other attitudes might matter. Identity shift is the bigger criteria of success when we are talking about the orbital change, which is a big career transition. So now let's spend some time on what exactly identity is. So taking this example from Dr. Ibarra from INSEAD, identity is collection of attributes, beliefs, values, motives, and experiences by which people define themselves in a professional role. So my belief could be that I'm a good engineer. I might not do equally well as a leader. That's a belief. The value could be transparency. So when I move into a leadership role where a lot of things are not black and white, there's a lot of ambiguity when you move from an engineer role to a leadership role. And that's where the another identity crisis happens. The motives, the experience, all these becomes part of identity. So to summarize what exactly identity includes the attributes. Am I strategic? Am I technical? Am I leadership material? I'm a problem solver. This all constitute identity. The beliefs like a leader should be decisive. I value collaboration. All of these beliefs play a role in forming our identity. Motives, what drive us? We all have different drivers, different motives, motivations for us. Is it the impact? Is it the autonomy? Is it the mastery? It all becomes part of our identity. Experience. I am good at managing so and so. I am good at solving the problem. That becomes our identity. I'm good at doing the things my own hand. That becomes the part of my identity. And even the role, the title, they become part of identity. So as we see, we carry so much identity, so many attributes of identity with us, which does not allow us to do make a career transition. A career transition could be moving from a VP to CEO role. A career transition could be moving from a tech heavy role to a leadership heavy role. Career transition could be the transition in time of Gen AI. It could be any of them. So let's see what happens when identity needs to shift with a career transition. So the first stage, and this model has been taken from Dr. Ibarra's transition model, and this resonated with my experience also. And also, when I work with leaders, I work with professionals, I've seen the similar pattern. So this is the reason I picked this model. The stage when the transition starts, when a professional or a leader takes up a new role, or in today's time, if we compare it with when we are started to adopt, when we are starting to adopt Gen AI, we are still a lot into old identity, who I was. So that's still ingrained in me. I'm exploring some new ways. So I might be experimenting in my new role. So let's say a new role could lead someone to do more experimentation with delegation, do more experimentation with taking strategic decisions, but the person is still too much ingrained in the old identity who I was. That's the first stage. The second is what we call as the liminal period. This is the in between the exploration and the integration. This is the stage when my old identity is still there, but I have not found my new identity. So now what's happening here? Uh, while my old skills, my old values, my old beliefs might not be serving me completely for my new role, but I'm still carrying the baggage of them. At the same time, I'm not completely getting into the new role. So I'm in between. And this is where, as per this study from Dr. Bara, 70% of the leaders get stuck in this stage too. Because of the uncertainty of they see a lot of ambiguity. The answers are not clear here when you're here because you're still not moved to the new role completely. There's a conflict between your earlier value and the new value. There's a conflict between the earlier beliefs and some of the new beliefs you need to take. There's a lot of doubt also. Is it meant for it? And this is where the imposter syndrome comes in. And this is where the 70% of the leaders get stuck. So the question in the chat is, can we skip this stage? We cannot skip this stage. So what could we do about it? We can, let's see. So typically in that liminal stage, we get into overthinking. We are into imposter syndrome. We are thinking, this has been working for me, but it's not working in new role. Am I making a right decision? I seek validation. Am I adopting in the new role or not? I too often retreat to old identity because that's very comfort zone for me. I might feel isolation because of overthinking about because of seeking validation. And then again self-doubt cycles. Average time what has been found in some studies is 18 to 36 months. And the outcome is 50 to 70% fail, moving from who I was to who I have become. So what could be done? Could if we cannot bypass the liminal stage, can it be shortened? Yes, it could be. And I have experienced it myself. I have seen with my coaching clients, the leaders also with whom I work. So the first step is the clarity on misalignment that, if my belief which has worked always for me is no more working, the value which has worked always for me is no more working, to be aware that I'm in a liminal stage where I'm transitioning from one stage to another, and this is normal. This misalignment is normal. Second step is we have to take small steps to experiment, to do actions which are more aligned with the new role, with the new orbit. And we have to reflect how we are doing with them. We have to take accountability. We have to look at the patterns. Am I able to leave my older beliefs, or I'm still in my older beliefs, stuck in my older beliefs? With all these, the average time to move from stage 1 exploration to stage 3 integration could be brought down to 6 to 12 months from 18 to 36 months. Outcome is integrated identity and sustained performance. So what's happening here? A leader or a professional is actually changing his or her identity with this process, where he's just not drifting from exploration to integration. He or she is navigating intentionally. So what exactly is required to make this happen? So the first thing, the clarity that there is a gap between my earlier identity and what is required for the new role. The beliefs, the values, and attributes, the motivations, experiences, professional role. I'm moving from a VP role to CEO role. What is the gap in beliefs? What is the gap in the values, if there are any? What is the gap in the attributes? The clarity about all those gaps between these two roles. Second is start doing experimentation. Test who you are becoming safely. Take small steps, be consistent, be accountable for them, start moving slowly, but towards the new identity. And then you need some validation on how you're doing. You need an external mirror because it's very difficult to look at it and reflect how am I doing moving from who I was to who to the new identity. And the coaching, a coach could help professionals get these clarity, experimentation, and validation. Clarity, asking question, making aware of what the current context is, making aware of the misalignment with the previous role and the new role. Experimentation is helping client to come up with the action items, to create a safe space, to create a space where client feel comfortable and confident to move forward, to overcome the imposter syndrome. And third, the validation acting like a mirror. Coach, when coach acts like a show a mirror to the client, the actual validation happens. So this brings us to the end of this webinar where we saw how the career transitions today are not linear. It's not about incremental. It's about changing an orbit together. And when we change the orbit, we're getting into territory which is unknown, which is uncertain. We do not have all the answers, which lead to imposter syndrome, which lead to self-doubt, which can lead to uh, isolating self because we are overthinking. We are trying to find answers which we are not getting. What could be done about it? Uh, Having clarity at what's the gap, taking small steps, and then validation, taking help of a coach. Thank you all for being today in this webinar. While we conclude this, we'll be sharing the recording of this. You can always get in touch with me on the LinkedIn or through the Wednesday webinars, or if you want to book an appointment me for my impossible transition coaching, you can reach out to me. Have a great week. Take care. Bye.